The automotive industry is a very important industry for Malaysia and indeed for many other countries in the world. It's a very critical component. 1983, we decided to implement the National Car Project. We decided to choose a route which is different from that chosen by many other countries, including Thailand and Indonesia. In Thailand or Indonesia, there's no National Car Policy. Of course, there are people who are very critical of this policy, but for Malaysia, this is very important. This has been very important. This has been instrumental in upgrading our technological capabilities, in enhancing domestic engineering capacity, and the auto industry plays a very important role in terms of employment, in terms of investments, in terms of spin-off effects. Of course, in anything that you do, there are pluses and minuses, the losers and the gainers. Overall, we believe that the country has learned a lot in the last almost 30 years, since we implemented the National Car Project. It is true that when the National Car Project was launched, there's been a lot of help. Firstly, there was a grant, 400 billion ringgit, and various facilities were provided, incentives, duty remissions, and various other facilitation given by government. And this has enabled Proton to grow, and this has been instrumental in the development of the Malaysian auto industry. Of course, there are costs to this as well, but overall we believe Malaysia has gained a lot in the last 30 years in building a very robust auto industry. The program this afternoon is as follows. I will go through a short PowerPoint presentation, and I'll be releasing to the media two documents. One is a short statement in English, and another a more detailed elaboration in Bahasa Malaysia. Those of you who want to know a little bit more, of course you've got to do the translation, but the contents of the auto policy are contained in my PowerPoint presentation, as well as in English version of the press statement, and a more detailed version is in Bahasa Malaysia. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by sharing with you some background information. Many of you are experts. You are not trying to give you a lecture, but I think for those of you not too familiar with this subject, it's useful to start with some background information. Firstly, the global auto industry. As you know, China is now number one. China, in terms of total industry volume, 2013 was about 22 million cars, with a growth of 13.8%. US, as you know, there was a big recovery in the US last year. In China, this is a very important industry. In US, a very important industry. Japan, of course, it's a very important industry. Brazil as well, and India is coming up. So the total TIV last year globally was 82.8 billion, compared to 79.5 billion in 2012, a growth of 4.2%. So the auto industry globally grew by quite a healthy percentage in the year 2013. Next, we look at our region, which is ASEAN and Malaysia. We can see similar growth in Indonesia, double digit, from 1.1 million units in 2012 to 1.2 million units in 2013. Thailand, of course, as a result of the Thailand is November. I think this is minus 2 months. So the Thai number is more than 1.4 million. We haven't got the full numbers yet. But for Malaysia, there's been about a 4% increase, 3.94% increase. I'm not too sure the MA has come up with the numbers. Not yet. This is an estimate, 652,120 compared with 627,753 in 2012. So there's been some growth, and Indonesia, of course, growth has been very rapid in Indonesia. In graphic form, you can see a trend in Malaysia. 2011 it came down just because of the problems, the economic problems we had and a few other countries throughout the world had. But there was a strong recovery in 2012, and this continued. The recovery continued in 2013. Next, in terms of investments, we are pleased to report that investments in the auto sector continues. to do well, from 2.3 billion in 2010 to 3.3 billion 2011 and 2012, went up to 5 billion. We're cleaning up numbers for 2013. At this point of time, we have 3 billion until October 2013. So it's been ups and downs, but quite healthy in terms of quantum investments in the auto sector has been quite healthy. Trade performance, yeah. Next, you can see you look at total there at the bottom. Exports amounted to 5.3 billion 2012, and imports amounted to 21.8 billion in 2012. Yeah, there is an imbalance of about 16.5 billion in 2012. The numbers for the whole of 2013 will be out in a few weeks' time. Yeah? And we'll be sharing with you those numbers. We believe 2013 there's been some increase in terms of, especially in terms of parts and components. You can see there. Let me go one by one. Exports less than 1 billion. We've been exporting less than 1 billion worth of cars. These are passenger cars. On the other hand, imports are a lot more. 9 billion. This year we believe somewhere around 10 billion. And then commercial vehicles, a similar trend there. Not much in terms of exports, a lot more in terms of imports. Motorcycles, similar situation. Parts and components. This is the area that we're focusing on. One of the areas focusing on the National Automotive Policy. You can see there's been a big increase in 2012 from 2.5 billion to 4.3 billion in terms of components. But imports went up as well, from 5.4 to 7.6 billion. So total 5.3 billion exports, most of it in the form of components, and imports amounting to 21.8 billion. So this is good performance. Next, in terms of some numbers to show you how important this industry is. According to industry players, after having consulted them with them, we know that in manufacturing, in the auto sector, which is components and cars and assembly and manufacturing vendors as well. About 250,000 people are involved in this industry. And aftermarket, there will be sales, service, workshops, and 300,000. In our view, in our estimate, about 550,000 people are dependent on this industry. So this is a very important sector. It is not only in America or in China or in Japan that the auto sector is important. In Malaysia, it is important as well. We've got 11 car companies. We've got 9 companies producing motorcycles. We've got about 500 vendors. Aftermarket businesses, this is sales and service, all kinds of businesses, 35,000. So these are companies which are involved in the auto sector. And GDP is somewhere around 3.4, 3.5%. Yeah? Okay, next will be what we call the motorization level for 1,000 people. Yeah? You can see that among ASEAN countries, Malaysia is the highest, number 5, 361. For every 1,000 people, we've got 361. This is motor vehicles or passenger cars? Marin? Passenger cars. Yeah, passenger cars. So for every 1,000 people in Malaysia, we've got 361 cars. In Vietnam, it's only 30. Indonesia, 21. Philippines, 30. Thailand, 157. So there's a big gap between Malaysia and Thailand. So some people say our market is saturated. Yeah, and that's one reason why the market is not being growing as fast as Indonesia. Indonesia is 21 for every 1,000 people. There's only 21 cars. Yeah, but in Malaysia it's 361. Yeah, that's one reason why Indonesia is growing. So Indonesia is 240 million people. We are only 28 million people. So that's why Indonesia in the last few years growth has been double digit. Yeah. Okay. Next, this sector, like many other sectors, have been opened up. This is in line with trends throughout the world to sign free trade agreements for us. Of course, what's important is ASEAN after 2010, when cars, CBU cars, imported from ASEAN enter Malaysia duty-free. There are no import duties. So that was 1/1/2010. And we have signed with Japan, with Australia and a few other countries. And all these, some of these, not all, some of these FTAs contain provisions on cars, yeah, which I will share with you in the next few minutes. So this is the reality. Yeah, markets are being opened up, being liberalized in Malaysia and many other countries. That's the trend. That's been a trend in the last few years. Okay, I'm just sharing with you next slide. This is I'm taking as examples Australia and Japan. Yeah, for example, with Australia, CKD now can, because of the free trade agreement, enter Malaysia duty free. Yeah, CKD is a completely knocked down parts. Yeah, can enter Malaysia duty free. CBU, of course, Australia is not producing that many cars. Yeah, this year it's going to be 10%. Any car imported from Australia will attract a duty of 10%. But 2016, 2016, zero. So that's the reality. Yeah. So there was a time when MFN was 30%. Yeah? The import duty on cars was 30%. In the last few years, it's been coming down gradually. This is last year was 13.6%. This year is going to be 9.1%. But 2016, cars imported from Japan will attract no more import duty, similar to the situation of cars coming from Thailand. Thailand, 1/1/2010, CBU imported into Malaysia, enters Malaysia duty-free. 2016, cars coming from Japan will come to this country duty-free, no import duties. So this is, of course, creating pressure and competition, of course. It's more intense now compared to the previous situation, say 20-30 years ago, when there's been a lot of protection given to the local auto industry. This is, these are national cars. Yeah? Proton, there's been, over the years, lots of changes in ownership and shareholding, and now is DRB Haikong. Yes, it's true, Proton, government helped Proton in the beginning. 400 million, that was seed money fully paid. Yeah, that was help given by the government of Malaysia. Proton has invested 18 billion ringgit. Yeah, new investments. Yeah, since then, 3.8 billion, employing about 30,500 people, vendors, Prodor, yeah, UMW, yeah, PMB, MBM, BMC. Yeah, so that's a shareholding structure. This is Proton sales or manufacturing. That's Prodor. Yeah. This is the holding company. So Prodor has invested 4.6 billion until 2012, and we expect Prodor to invest another 2.4 billion, 10,000 employment, and vendors 180. Of course, some of these are common to Proton, Prodor, and indeed some other companies as well. Yeah? Okay, there was a time when they used to come to MITI control prices until 2004. All car companies have got to come to MITI for approval. That's no longer, that has been abolished in 2004. That's one of the ways in which we protected Proton, yeah? Where all car companies will have to come to MITI for approval when it comes to car prices. But that was abolished 10 years ago. Okay. Next. Okay. The policy that I'm about to announce is mainly it has got to do mainly with the opening up of the EV sector. As you know, we have frozen ML manufacturing license for 1.8 liters and below. So this policy is to open up the whole Malaysian car market to the EV segment. Before this, no license was given. If you want to come to Malaysia, want to produce a car 1300cc, for example, we say no. Yeah. But now under the EV policy, the ML is going to be approved, yeah, to companies which come here to set up operations in the EV segment. So the EV segment is going to be opened up. Yeah. So these are, before we go into the EV, let me share with you what's been done in Thailand. In Thailand, they got what they call the eco car. Yeah. These are definitions given to what is an eco car in terms of fuel efficiency, in terms of carbon emissions. The definitions are quite standard, quite similar in many countries. But in the case of Thailand, it is not open to all segments. It's open only to these segments, which is 1.3 to 1.4 liters or smaller. These are compact small cars. Phase 2 is 1.3 and 1.5. Okay. So, but for Malaysia, all segments. Yeah. For Thailand, the present policy of the eco cars only covers 1.3 for petrol liters and 1.4 liters for diesel base. Emission standard, 04, Euro 5, safety regulations. And so this is the policy in Thailand, the Eco Car policy. This car is doing, there's been production is coming up. There's been heavy investments in this segment in Thailand. Okay, next. This is in terms of investments. There's also another criteria in Thailand. It's got to be at least 500 million ringgit, phase one, and you need to produce at least 100,000 units to qualify to get incentives under the Eco Car program in Thailand. Investments have got to be no less than 510 million ringgit. You need to produce at least 100,000 units, and you're given tax incentives, excise tax incentives, 30% normal and 70% for lower excise duty for Eco Car. Can you, those of you with cameras, can you come to the side? Because some people are you right? Are you right? Can you hear? Can you see? You can't see. Can you come to the side, some of you? Can you come to the side? To be fair to, we've got many people at the back there. Yeah. Okay, so next. Okay, next. Okay, Indonesia has got what they call the Green Car Program. There's a definition, and the target is for petrol 1 to 1.2 liters, for diesel 1 to 1.5. So the point I'm making here is that Indonesia has got a program. Ireland has also a similar program, but it's limited. There's some restrictions in terms of investment, in terms of number of units. But in Malaysia, we do not impose any. There are no conditions. Right? Of course, the technical conditions are there, but in terms of investment, in terms of what else? In terms of investment, in terms of units, there's no cap, there's no condition in Malaysia under our EV program. Okay. Next, as I said, we have been in this for 18 months. Many of you in this room have been with me. I had my last engagement about 5 days ago. That was with Dato' Aisha. That was my last engagement. And I've been doing this for the last 18 months. I had one big one end of last year. And my people have been having engagements as well. And we've been meeting the media. In our view, we have done our best in terms of getting views from various stakeholders. So this policy has been developed, has been conceived after having very extensive consultation with various stakeholders in 18 months, involving OEMs, involving components association, involving aftermarket associations, ministers' agencies, involving universities, banks, NGOs, bloggers, social media, and for that reason, once again, I would like to thank you for all the inputs and support you have given to this process of engagement. Okay, I want to go to specifics now. What are the objectives of NAP 2014? One is to promote a competitive and sustainable domestic auto industry, including the national car company. Competitive and sustainable. Number two, this is very important, probably the most important. Probably number two should be number one. To make Malaysia as a regional automotive hub in energy efficient vehicles. As I said, we have this in Thailand, parts of this program in Malaysia as well, but we believe ours is comprehensive. So that is objective number one, the most important objective, which is to make Malaysia the regional automotive hub in EV. And number three, to promote increase in value-added activities in a sustainable manner. Number four, which is very important to us as well, in the context of balance of trade, in the context of trade, promote increase in exports of vehicles and automotive components. We have measures in NAP, in particular to promote the export of automotive components and to some extent exports of vehicles as well. Number five, to promote more Bumi participation in the total value chain. This is a very important national agenda of government. Number six, whether a particular technology or particular car fits into this definition of EV. It includes fuel efficient vehicles, hybrid, EV, 7 segments there. Segment A, B, C, from micro car to very big cars. So these are technical definitions. So micro car, the curb weight is going to be less than 800 kg, and this car has got to travel at least 100 kilometers. Customized incentives for both foreign and domestic investments. Yeah? And it's not going to be spent in 1 year. This is until 2020. So 2014, 15, so it's more in the context of the capabilities of some of that also. And then export recycled material. We hope to be able. This is a very ambitious target. Yeah. 2020. This is 2020. We hope to be able to export. The exemption of excise duties and import duties for hybrid EV will be extended for models that are assembled in Malaysia. Yeah. This is a change in policy. As you know, for the last 24 years, we have given import duty and excise duty exemption for hybrid electric cars. Yeah. Going forward, this facility is going to be open only to those who've got a commitment to produce or to assemble the cars locally, and finally, of course, to produce the cars in this country. We've been bringing lots of CBUs in the country to encourage the use of energy-efficient vehicles, electric, and a number of new business opportunities. Yeah, in specialized design, engineering prototyping center. I'm now talking about EVs, testing vehicle, service provider for vehicle type approval, and we want them to be globally competitive. At present, there's a few. Yeah, there's a few vendors in Malaysia which are exporting throughout the world. Somewhere around 20 of them are exporting throughout the world. Some big, some small. And we would like to increase the number. We also want to increase exports of auto components from Malaysia. 5 billion last year, and we want this. We do not set car prices. So what we can do is to set a framework. We cannot force car companies to reduce prices. Yeah? But we believe through competition and in line with our manifesto, PRU 13, yeah, we remain committed to reduce prices 20-30% in the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah. Gradual, we have given this undertaking, gradual car price reduction in the next 5 years. Yeah. In Parliament, some members of Parliament have been hounding me, why are car prices still high? Yeah. We've been telling them it's not going to happen in one, one moment. It will happen within 5 years. So this is our commitment in our manifesto. Yeah. And this CPR has got a number of measures. Yeah. But the main thing is opening up of the Malaysian auto market, liberalization. Starting, of course, Proton was protected, enjoying 70% market share, 50%, now somewhere around 25%. And over the years, it is a fact that Proton has been facing more intense competition. Yeah, more intense competition. So FDA, ASEAN, yeah, and this is going to be a very important factor that will drive, that will make the market more competitive, and prices will come down. Yeah, over 5 years. Yeah. So this has created, liberalization has created a more competitive environment. Prices, of course, have become more competitive, and industrial players have played a very important role in ensuring that we create this more competitive environment in the auto sector. Okay, I'll come back to consider reviewing some of these taxes. Last year, we estimated to have collected 480 million in the form of export taxes. Because as I said, from ASEAN is zero, from many countries taxes are low, therefore tax and situation of the budget, it is not possible for the government to review excise duties. But the government, of course, in the next few years, will review the fiscal situation, and as the fiscal situation improves, the government will consider looking into the possibility of gradually reducing excise duties. Okay? 2 points. Number one, at this present moment of time, it is not possible for the government to consider any reduction in excise duties. Number one. Number two, going forward, the government will be monitoring its fiscal situation, and in the event the fiscal situation is conducive, the government is open to the possibility of gradually reviewing excise duties. As you know, excise duties are now between 65 and 105%. 65 to 105, although many car companies, through various policies, pay a lot less than that. We estimate car companies pay about 50%, although the nominal rate 65 to 105, when in actual fact, because of various concessions given, the average tax rate paid by most companies is about 50%. So going forward, if the financial situation improves, then the government is open to the possibility of reducing excise duties gradually over a period of time. So this is an answer to many proposals coming from the public, Parliament, especially in a run-up to GE13. Yeah? I hope that will put the closure, or some closure to this contentious subject of excise duties. Yeah? And 30%, and all this, what I have here on the screen, represents 30% of the total Malaysian car market. In other words, 30% of Malaysians who bought these cars last year have already been able to benefit from car price reduction. Saga Auto, Saga SP and Saga FLX, for example, the bosses are here, I hope the numbers are correct. There's been a 12% reduction in the price of Saga. Yeah? Persona as well, 13%. And this is, I mean, some have been telling me that some thrills have been taken away. That's not the case. Viva, Rodo, the boss is here as well, 2,000 ringgit, 4%. Alza is another Alza speedmaker. Yeah. This is, yeah. And this price is going to be competitive. Yeah. For example, the Viva introduced in January 2014 was 27, was Viva, Viva Alza. Salah. Macam mana ni? Buat ke depan ni? It's Alza, bukan Viva, it's Alza, 2%. For something I must say, when we talk about NAP, there are two issues which the public are interested to know more about. Firstly, what's going to happen to car prices. Secondly, AP. I must admit that this is a difficult issue for the government of Malaysia. Yeah? And the government in the next couple of weeks after Chinese New Year, we're going to appoint a body, a consultant to the body, to do a thorough study and to assess the impact on the termination or continuation, not just termination, or confirmation of the AP policy on good corporate participation in the industry and also on the industry at large. Before this, manufacturing licenses have been frozen for cars which are 1800cc and below. Now it's going to be opened up, but this is only for energy efficient vehicles, and they've got to meet the criteria set by government. Number two, we do this because we want Malaysia to be the hub for EV in the region. We want Malaysia to produce 1.25 million cars by the year 2020. About 250,000 of those cars will be exported. Yeah? And we believe that with this, there will be an additional employment opportunities of about 150,000 people. Once again, the auto industry is a very important sector to Malaysia. We have done the right thing in setting up Proton in 1983. Of course, along the way, we have learned a lot of things. Yeah? But at present, the market is becoming, because of AFTA, because of ASEAN, cars are coming to Malaysia duty-free. More open because we are also importing cars duty-free from Japan by 2016. So the market is more liberal now. There was a time when car companies have got to come to meeting for approval on the car prices before the set prices. That was to protect Proton those days, 2004. But that policy has been dismantled in 2004, and now it is market driven, and we believe market forces will continue to make this segment competitive, and it is for that reason that we are optimistic that this new policy will enable Malaysia to once again regain our position as one of the most dynamic hubs for car manufacturing in ASEAN. So that's all I have, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your indulgence. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.